And I've got issues with 1993. Game of the century, one of about 87 of those. Florida State went to South Bend and lost to Notre Dame by a touchdown. So Notre Dame won the big matchup. Then, of course, the next week they came back at home and lost to Boston College. And people tend to assume, at least the ones that I hear from, that Boston College was garbage. They lost to Boston College. How in the world could they do that? That should cost them the national championship. Well, Boston College was 9-3. They finished at number 13 in the country. Florida State was rather, I'm not going to call them lucky, they were rather fortunate to beat Nebraska in the Orange Bowl. That was a heck of a game. And Florida State was a huge favorite because you got to realize at this time, Miami and Florida State would just throw Nebraska around like a rag doll and just, that's probably a bad way of putting it because Nebraska had the muscle to hang with them, but not the speed. And so between the 1987 Orange Bowl, 88 Orange Bowl, 89, maybe not that Orange Bowl, but I know Florida State beat them by a couple scores at another time, the 92 Orange Bowl. They matched up against Miami two other times and lost 23-3, 22-0. Just couldn't score against these teams. They were too fast. And they were too limited in the passing game. So anyway, they show up in this game, and they're a 2-touchdown underdog. They were a bigger underdog than that. I think it was like 17 or 18 against Florida State, and they played a great game. And Florida State took the lead late. What was the final in that game? Like 16-15, 18-16. Yeah, I think it was 16-15 Nebraska. Then Florida State kicked a field goal with about a minute left. And it was my thought, wow, Nebraska played a great game, but there's no way they can go down the field. They've got a limited passing offense. And sure enough, they came right down the field, hit on a few pass plays, and missed a field goal in which Bobby Bowden was prematurely doused with Gatorade. Then they had to come back after a penalty, try the field goal, missed it. Otherwise, Nebraska would have won the national championship in 1993. But as it stood, Florida State survived. But I have a big issue with it's head-to-head. It's simple. Now, in all these other scenarios, we did not have head-to-head, or in the case of 1996 Florida State, we had two head-to-head matchups, and of course they were split, so we've got that dilemma. Or did not have a head-to-head to break the tie, but here we do. Why is Florida State winning the national championship? I understand they got to play Nebraska, but the two teams played. I know that they played at Notre Dame, but that's the way football games are played. They're usually played at a particular site. Now, Auburn was on probation. The way I deal with that generally is that if you cheated and your cheating caused you to win games, or throughout history, what it is mostly is for you to acquire players that should have been ineligible, then that's the issue I have there. So Auburn undefeated. And of course, they didn't play two games, so they would have played probably their two toughest games, or two of their toughest games of the season, the final two games that they didn't play. So promoting an Auburn claim for a national championship is a bit much because only 11 games instead of 13 they would have played in the SEC championship game against Florida, who finished number 5. And then they would have played, if Auburn would have been eligible, then you probably would have had Notre Dame and Auburn would have played in the Sugar Bowl. Then you would have had a real mess. So as it stands for me, Notre Dame is national champion. But if you take into account that Nebraska has the same record as Notre Dame, and Nebraska lost to a much better team, Notre Dame lost to BC. Well, we got one of those 1996 round robin deals where if we justify one team as tying for a national championship, then we've got to go the full route because Florida State beat Nebraska. Florida State lost to Notre Dame. Notre Dame lost to BC. We've got a three-way tie again for a national championship with Florida State, Notre Dame, and Nebraska.